everyone, I'm Udit. Today I'm going to talk about software engineering resumes for Google aspirants. I'm going to cover 5 tips which have been collected from Google engineering recruiters who focus on early careers. So this is particularly relevant for you if you have up to 5 years of experience or are still a student. These recruiters have years of experience and have reviewed thousands of resumes. And in this video, we'll try to distill 5 key insights that they've provided that can give you an edge when you apply to Google. Quick introduction, I'm from Prepfully. We offer mock interviews and resume reviews from coaches and recruiters on our website, alongside a range of other free interview prep services, such as interview questions, free practice with other candidates, and so on. For context, the same recruiters who've contributed these tips that I'm going to go through also do resume reviews on Prepfully. So if you want personalized feedback for your resume so that you can take it maybe to the next level, you can get a written or verbal review from one of these same recruiters. Right then, on to the tips themselves. The first tip is around coding skills. Most people think that coding skills are just the languages that they're familiar with. So the average candidate is going to mention C++, Java, Python, or whatever else they've used regularly and stop there. However, there's also a lot of additional things that Google looks for when it comes to coding skills, and your resume is an opportunity to highlight them upfront to your recruiter. The first is an ability to drive projects end to end. So if you've ever done that in the past, we'd recommend mentioning it and giving examples of projects and the languages you've used where you've driven things end to end. The other thing is the ability to help other people who are also writing code. So if you've done code reviews or if you've done any kind of pair programming or peer reviews, then absolutely mention that as well. Finally, it's also important to show how you've applied these coding skills. So always make sure to tie your coding skills back to the metrics you've influenced or the impact that you've achieved in the context of that product. The second tip then is to try to demonstrate that you have a passion for engineering outside of work. Because Google is trying to hire people who show a love for the craft, right? And that there's one thing to demonstrate it in the context of your work environment. It's quite another to show that, hey, that's something you generally enjoy doing. It also shows that you're willing to learn and that you have an appetite for becoming better at it. And while it's always useful to have other hobbies and the like that you reference in your resume that are good conversation starters, it's going to win you tremendous brownie points if you show that you're going beyond the minimum in the domain that you're interviewing for. Effectively, since stuff that you do outside of work is a good proxy for what you enjoy doing, it's a good indicator to Google that you really enjoy programming and that you've learned a lot of it beyond just your job. If you, for instance, got a HackerRank rank, if you've done code chef projects, if you've contributed to open source stuff on GitHub, Google has online challenges, there's badges you've earned and the like, then absolutely use this as an opportunity to show off and show that you really enjoy the craft. The third thing that Google looks for is systems design experience. Now, at a relatively junior role, there are often specialized roles for system design engineers. Software engineers at FANG are generally expected to have some fundamental knowledge of system design so that you're able to communicate successfully with senior engineers and the like, even at junior levels. And you want to kind of show this in your resume. So a good example is if you've designed the core features of an offering on your platform, take a line to mention that you, for instance, designed a system catering to a particular goal. Mention the constraints and the bottlenecks you might have phrased, for instance, because it shows that you know how to operate in a very real world environment. In this context, we strongly recommend using keywords like designed or conceptualized or architecture to show that you have both technical depth and the competence to apply those concepts in a practical sense. The fourth tip then is around past experience and in particular academic experience if you have less work experience. Big Tech generally looks for internships as a big proxy of what kind of environment you've worked in. So if you've done internships, absolutely mention that. It's a good proxy for whether you're going to be comfortable with the pace and the culture. If you don't have internship experience, that's absolutely fine. Everyone has a first time. In that context, leverage your academic projects. Don't just mention I did XXX, mention I did XYZ using XYZ, achieving XYZ. So make it as tangible as possible, but also be realistic. It's really unlikely that you'll actually have saved millions of dollars or euros or crores of rupees or whatever. And if you say something like that, your recruiter is just going to roll their eyes. Because at the end of the day, if you've done an academic project or if you've done something at your first internship, it's going to be like risk constrained at the end of the day. So be realistic about what you've achieved. The keywords you should focus on here are the names of companies you've worked at, the names of technologies that you might have used, the scope of the impact you might have achieved, the user problem you might have solved. All these are good proxies for how much impact you can generate. From an academic sense, I would also strongly recommend mentioning your GPA, especially if it's good, because a lot of these companies have cutoffs for students and you want to make sure that you communicate that you're above it. If you don't have a very good GPA, still mention it because you're going to be asked about it anyway, but then spend a lot more time focusing on the projects you've done and the impact you achieved within. Tip number 5 is the Googlyness tip. Now, your recruiter is going to want to see if you'll actually get through the interview process if they're going to invite you to one, right? Google also indexes heavily in testing candidates on that Googlyness factor, which is that magic factor that assesses if you'll actually be a fit with Google's culture. This tests a number of things. It can be your ability to work outside a team with other folks. It can be within a team collaboration. It can be how well you build a rapport. It can be whether you can become a leader when required, if you can successfully collaborate with people with different opinions. There's a lot of things that are effectively going to test, and the mistake most candidates make is in assuming that this will only come up in an interview. And that's a very dangerous assumption to make because your recruiter is only going to invite you to the interview if they think that you already show some of these signals. So use your resume in that context to demonstrate these signals. Use phrases such as I partnered with XYZ, or I worked with a set of data scientists or designers, or I collaborated in a team of X people to achieve Y goals. All these are good opportunities for you to show that you've got that Googlyness factor and that you can actually hold your own in an interview when you'll eventually have your behavioral interview as well. Good then, that's all from us at Prepfully. If you want to get specific feedback on your resume or personalized advice, you can get your resume reviewed by a Google recruiter or a Google software engineer for that matter on Prepfully. Or if you just want to get advice on the interview process or get practice when it comes to what a live interview is going to be like, you can also just book an advice session or a mock interview session with the same coaches. They've helped hundreds of candidates, so I've included a link in the description below. I'm also going to link to a bunch of other useful resources in the description, most of which are free. They're all going to be about Google software engineering as an interview process. If you have any other questions that I might not have covered, feel free to ask in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks from us at Prepfully and good luck with your interviews.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please subscribe. Our website is prepfully.com. We've got lots of interview questions there. You can also schedule a mock interview with one of our experts. You can find the link in the description below. All the best from us at Prepfully, and we hope you totally rock your interview.